whenever you're embarking on a new chapter that you know is going to require you to level up, there's this resistance that comes in where you just think, I'm not ready yet. And we have to ignore that I'm not ready because there's another part of you that is so ready to step into this next chapter, that's so ready to level up. And God, the universe, is showing you this next step, this next door that's going to open to tell you like, hey, you've got this, but you've got to trust it. It's going to feel uncomfortable. Talk about confidently uncomfortable, y'all. All right, this is it. We are back after a little bit of a summer break, spring break, we'll call it that. I am back and ready to share exciting things happening. And I wanted to welcome you here today. And I wanted to thank you for those of you who have been listening for a while. If you're a new listener, someone sent you this episode, welcome. I tend to do things pretty unfiltered. I talk about sharing the messy middle a lot, and I typically do. But this season, I took a second for myself and I had to slow down. I was forced to slow down, and it made me think a lot about my life, a lot about all that we've done personally, professionally. And it's wild to see how, if you've been with me for a while, this healing journey, I feel like I needed to make space within myself in order to get to this next level, to this next chapter. And I'm really excited to share more about that with you today. I'm excited, but I'm also scared and nervous because I told myself I'm going to go into this with no filter. I'm going to share the messy middle. I'm going to be super freaking honest. And I'm just glad you're here for it. So thank you. Like I said, I've gone through my own healing journey. I share a lot about the messy middle. And it's funny, I do so much goal setting with my clients and within myself. And we create this vision for our lives. And as a manifesting generator, which if you don't know human design, I have a whole episode on that, but I'm meant to have specific ideas and vision and follow that. However, time and time again, life has taught me that we don't know the timeline. Our plan is not God's plan. If it helps you to say this better, our plan is not the universe's plan. The universe knows what we can handle. It knows what we're ready for. And it knows how to push you in a way that you didn't know you could push yourself in order to level up. It's just you have to trust it. You have to lean into it. You have to trust yourself. And so I'm saying this on the other end of an experience to tell you where I'm at now. But time and time again, I don't know about y'all, but I never could plan out what would happen. I think about with my husband, we met when we were 15 or 16. I said it was going to be a high school, summer thing. And lo and behold, he is the love of my life, my best friend, and has been with me for now that we just had our anniversary. We've been together for 15 years. And now at 31 years old, that's over half of my life. I have now been with my husband longer than I've been without him. And that's just a wild place to be. And I never could have guessed that. I never could have found the timing of when I didn't get into the school that I thought I would get into. If you guys are listening and you've been to college, maybe you didn't get in where you thought you were going to go, or maybe you quit school, or maybe you quit your job, or just, there was a lot of uncertainty in our lives. And I want to remind you that that uncertainty in your life does not mean you're failing. It doesn't mean you're not meant to be where you are right now. And it doesn't mean you're not going where you're supposed to be going. I've had to remind myself that a lot, especially recently. It's okay to be a little bit anxious about the unknown, but also allow yourself the space to be excited and just think, wow, there are so many possibilities that are happening. There is so much greatness that can happen. And I'm going to lean into the excitement around this new thing. So for me, I have a huge announcement. Shaking and sweating. I'm pregnant. Okay, I'm saying it out loud. I am pregnant. Yeah. It's so funny. Every time I say I have an announcement, so many of y'all guess that I'm pregnant. And I finally have been telling you guys, stop guessing that. And then when I started sharing about this announcement, no one was guessing that. And I'm like, that's so funny. Yeah. I am pregnant. While I'm recording this episode, I am currently 14 weeks pregnant. So the past 3 months, I have been going through a whirlwind of change within myself, within my body, within my mind. I would love for you to share in this excitement with me. But I also want you to step into the messy middle and share in like this next journey. I'm going to reflect and talk about my experiences so far with this. I'm going to share some of the craziest stories on how we found out, how we told people. It is going to be very fun and exciting. So hang in there with me. If you are not in a space right now to listen about this news and it's just kind of triggering you, I want to tell you right now, take a deep breath. And as you exhale, know that I'm sending you so much love right now, wherever you're at. If you're going through some sort of grief or frustration, and this isn't for you right now, that's okay. But I'm going to be super, super honest and share everything. And I hope that you have the space to hold it for me. And I appreciate you listening and celebrating with me so far. So, if any of you guessed it, yes, I'm pregnant. I'm so excited to share it. Like I said, I'm so used to sharing the messy middle with y'all, and holy shit, it has been quite a messy middle, beginning, middle, and everything. I've been so anxious about telling you guys that I literally have been like recording, like doing diaries where I'm basically sitting down like I am right now and just recording a video on like, hey, here's where I'm at. And I don't know if those will ever see the light of day. If they do, follow me on TikTok because I throw a lot of random stuff on there. Okay, first question, you might be like, what? Wait, you're pregnant? Did you want kids? Were you expecting? Like, blah, blah, blah. Were you trying? Which trying is weird. Yes, we have sex a lot, but that doesn't mean that, I don't know. The whole trying thing is a weird concept to me because if you tell people you're trying, that's great, but it also feels like you're just like, hey, we're having a lot of sex right now and I want to announce it to you. Okay, that's cool. That's a little judgment on me, but that's how I feel. It's funny because I've been teaching cycle syncing and it has been great. I have been off birth control for years and it has been so good for us. And cycle syncing has kept us to be able to focus on when we want to have kids. However, I have one ovary. I had an ovarian cyst and one of my ovaries removed. So we knew we wanted to get pregnant this year. And I thought it was going to take a year. I was like, yeah, like it'll probably take us a while. And it didn't. It didn't take us as long as we thought it would. There was just some funny things that happened. So I'm going to kind of walk you through the beginning since I haven't been able to share this with you. So let's talk about it. Okay, so I had this feeling at the end of March. I was journaling, and you guys know I pull oracle cards, and I pulled this specific card, and I'll talk about it and show it in a second. But as soon as I pulled it, this like voice in my head was like, hey, you're pregnant. Or not hey, but like, you are pregnant right now. And this is before my like quote unquote missed period. So like, I didn't really know yet. But the card, I'm showing it right now if you're on YouTube, but the card was of a woman who is pregnant and she's holding her belly and it's so beautiful. It looks like a beautiful moon and stars. And it says, I live each moment with a presence of gratitude. And I've pulled this card before. And in the past, it felt like it was just meant to be speaking through gratitude. And I was also giving birth to something else in the previous, not an actual human. And this time was different. This time I felt it in my bones. I got to the point where I was like, okay, well, let's take some pregnancy tests. I was getting closer to when I was supposed to start my period. Y'all, I'm literally cycle syncing. I am like on it, like to a T of when I start and all of that, which if this TMI for you, then you're not going to like this episode. I took tests, right? And so I took my first test. I don't know why I felt like a weird kid, like going to buy a pregnancy test. I felt like a teenager because I bought them. Sorry, Mom. I bought them when I was a teenager because I got nervous. Like I was just like, the whole time you're being told that you're going to get pregnant and chlamydia and die. If you know that Mean Girls reference, that's what I'm referring to. But took the first test and it was negative. And I'm like, okay, guess I'm not pregnant. And then I'm like, okay, I still feel like I am. Let me take one more. It was going to be Easter weekend. And, you know, usually we drink with family, we drink with friends when we're celebrating Easter together. And so I was like, I want to take one more and just be sure. So I took it again and it was negative. And I showed Tom, my husband, both of those. And I was like, hey, they're both negative. I said, I know I sound crazy, but like, I still feel like I'm pregnant. And even though I got 2 negatives, at this point, I still don't have my period. I'm like, I still feel like I am. And he's like, okay, well then, you know, just don't drink this weekend if you don't want to. And that wasn't a big deal for me. I went through the weekend. I don't know. I still wasn't so sure. And then I came home and Tom was at work and I took another test. And I got the faintest line, like the smallest little line. Like, so 2 double lines means you're pregnant, just so you know, for this specific test. And I'm like, okay, like, not sure. Like, if a little line just means you're like sort of pregnant, I don't know. I'm not sure. Like, yes, that was my thinking just because I was kind of in disbelief. And so I'm like, okay, I got a different brand. I got one more. And I took it again when Tommy was home. And I told him like, okay, I'm going to take a pregnancy test. I didn't tell him about the one before that was positive. And I took it. And I looked at that line and it was another faint line, but it was there. It was a little bit less faint at that point. And I walk over to Tom and he's watching like Shark Tank because that's what we watch sometimes because we're an old couple. It's funny when you're watching like people's reaction, you like see people's reaction videos all the time, or I've seen them a lot on TikTok. There's so much like joy and happiness that like me in that moment, like looking back, I thought like you think like your certain moments are going to be a certain reaction. My reaction was not this like, I'm overjoyed and I'm so happy and like I'm crying tears of joy. I was smiling and like me and Tom couldn't stop laughing. It was like our reaction was to laugh, which is probably like, I don't know. That was just what we were doing. And I have a whole video for it. So again, go on TikTok and follow me because it'll be there. I showed him and it was just crazy because we were both in disbelief. And I got to a point where I'm like, it's starting to sink in, but it's not sinking in. And we both just kind of were like, well, we'll wait till tomorrow. Maybe I don't know. Like, we don't know if this is real yet. And it just didn't feel real. And we were so excited. Like we wanted kids, but it just, I don't know. Like I said, timing, like you always think that you need more time when it comes to stuff. You always think you're not ready. And this goes for anyone, regardless of kids or whatever. Whenever you're embarking on a new chapter that you know is going to require you to level up, there's this resistance that comes in where you just think, I'm not ready yet. And we have to ignore that I'm not ready because there's another part of you that is so ready to step into this next chapter, that's so ready to level up. And God, the universe, is showing you this next step, this next door that's going to open to tell you like, hey, you've got this, but you've got to trust it. It's going to feel uncomfortable. Talk about confidently uncomfortable, y'all. This has been very on brand as far as what I'm going through right now. And we were able to have that experience together and it was great. And basically the first few weeks, it's weird. And if y'all have been pregnant, maybe you know this, but it's weird walking around knowing you're pregnant and no one else knowing. And it felt like my entire world was changing to the point where I'm like having an existential crisis. Like, okay, well, there's this weird stigma that you're not supposed to tell people. And I understand the reason for both sides, by the way, because, you know, loss is a real thing and that can really happen, but it's not in my nature to hold that stuff in. So I just wasn't sure what to do. And after a while, once the exhaustion and the nausea started to kick in for me, again, everyone's journey is differently. But I'll talk more about that in a second. But once that started to kick in, I was like, I don't even have the energy to tell people what I'm going through right now. I just have to get through it. And that sounds a little ungrateful. And I want to talk to you about that guilt because I also struggled with some guilt in the beginning where I wanted to complain and scream and cry all the time because I felt nauseous. And I thought morning sickness was truly just like in the morning, maybe like threw up in the morning and then went on with your day. But that's not the case for me. I was physically ill throughout the entire day for like the past 12 weeks. I guess it was more like 8 weeks, but it felt like an eternity. I felt so nauseous and sick. And I don't know if you guys have been following, but it is wedding season. So we have had 6 weddings in the month of May, like May through June. We had back-to-back weekends of weddings. And that's hard enough. I love celebrating love. I love it so much, but like I wanted to be so present, but I was so exhausted. I could not function. I would go walk my dog in the morning and come back and be tired and fall asleep. I would go teach a class and then I would be tired and fall asleep. I would go teach a coaching call and then as soon as I finished, I would go back and fall asleep. And so I only had a small capacity for what I could do in a day. And a lot of it was just surviving. And my immediate reaction to that as someone who prides themselves and puts their badge of honor around being busy and productive all the time, I felt like, and I use these words a lot, I felt like a piece of shit. I literally told Tom almost every day, I feel like a piece of shit. I feel like I'm doing nothing of value right now, which is so funny because I'm literally creating life within me. But at this point, I've only seen a test with a line on it. Like nothing feels real at this point. So I'm just struggling with this lack of self-worth. Like I have no energy. And the nausea was creating a disconnect between myself. And I will say, like, if you are not someone who's pregnant, but you deal with chronic pain or chronic discomfort, things like that, my heart goes out to you because it really makes it hard to function. When you are dealing with something every single day, it makes it hard for you to think. It makes it hard for you to connect with other people. It makes it hard for you to go out and do things. And I was really struggling. I was going out and trying to be a good wedding attendee, especially because my brother got married and I'm so happy for him. But it was hard. It was exhausting. And then I would feel guilty for complaining about exhaustion, which my sweet husband, Tom, was the only one hearing most of this because no one really knew. And at that point, I had to work through, and Tom does this a lot. He's always like, he loves throwing this back at me. He goes, what would Jago say to you right now? And he says that because he hears me speaking and recording podcasts a lot. And like, I have a lot of coaching calls. And so he knows I wouldn't speak to my client like that. I would not say, you know what, you're a piece of shit for not doing anything today. I would have them find a small win. I would remind them that to give themselves grace through this process. But it's interesting, we can still be so hard on ourselves, even though we know what we should be doing and the amount that we should be allotting ourselves. Like, I should have been giving myself more grace, but I just wasn't. And so he started to say that to me. And honestly, I didn't listen to him. It only started to click after I went in for my OB appointment and got an ultrasound. So I go in, and originally the first appointment was that I was going to get the appointment done, get my blood work, all that stuff. And then as soon as I got there, they're like, whoa, we're actually going to do an ultrasound for you. Do you want to hear the heart rate? And we can make sure everything's okay, if that's okay with you. And Tom wasn't with me at the time. And we wanted him to be at the first ultrasound appointment, but they told me it would be different. And it just wasn't. And my immediate thought, I didn't hesitate. I was like, yes, I need to know. I want to see. And Tom supported this decision after he found out. But the second I saw that like baby moving in my body, my mind was like, holy shit. Someone said to me, one of my girlfriends who I had told, they were like, you're literally growing fingernails right now within your body, which was gross to me, but that's crazy. You literally have 2 hearts in your body, 4 lungs in your body. Just all these things where I'm like, wow, like no wonder I'm exhausted. I came home from that appointment and took a nap with 0 guilt for the first time. I had 0 guilt for taking this nap because I realized that like our body knows what it needs. And so I started to lean back into that intuition. It's different because I've talked about leaning into my intuition and I've done that in different aspects of my life, but this was different. This was a journey that I've never been on before. And so I definitely was dealing with a lot of guilt and I felt bad. And I just think there are so many people that are trying so hard to get pregnant and they're struggling with that. And here I am complaining about my nausea. Here I am complaining about my exhaustion. Here I am miserable and frustrated. And I talk about this, but I want to remind you, like, you are allowed to hold space for both. Like, I can be really, really excited, but also super scared or frustrated. You're allowed to hold space for both. And not only can you, but you should, in order to be the full human that you are, to express yourself fully. And so I've gotten better at that, but it was a struggle for a while. And as far as those challenges, like I've been working through them. I'm at the point where, if you don't know, 12 weeks, like that's the first trimester. So I'm in my second trimester. My exhaustion level has gotten way better. I have a lot more energy. My nausea is a lot more manageable. I mean, y'all, I was literally doing everything for nausea. I bought those little like C-bands that you wear on your wrist that help you if you go on a cruise and you feel seasick. So I tried those. I got these like ginger mint things. I got these stomach settle things, ginger chews, like tea, peppermint tea. And I'll do a video later on what worked and what didn't, but nothing knocked it out completely. And so I had to learn to meet myself where I was at. And it's all these lessons that I teach and I've learned in different aspects of my life that I have to basically relearn. And that's what I want to kind of get into is like, there were challenges, but I'm learning to work through them. And there's exciting moments too. And I'm so grateful for my partner, for Tom, because he's been able to support me in a way that I haven't. I am someone who is hyper independent to a fault. I don't know if you're like that. I struggle with completely depending on someone. I get frustrated with it. And I've worked on that over time. But this came up again where this like hyper independence of not wanting help and feeling guilty for asking for help. But then I started to realize like I need to, in order to survive, I need to ask him to do these things for me. He'd pick up, help out with the cleaning, help out with different things like that. And I'm so glad that I feel safe enough to be able to do that. And I'm allowing myself to do that and get a little uncomfortable asking for help. I'll talk more about like some of the other exciting things. Like I loved sharing it with my mom. I actually drove down on Mother's Day to surprise her. And some of you guys might have seen me like surprise my mom on Mother's Day. You didn't know when you saw that video that that was me surprising my mom on Mother's Day and telling her that she was not the only mom in the room right now. And I was going to be a mom too. And it was such an awesome experience. And then the very next weekend, it was my brother's wedding. And I didn't want to tell my family, which was that this was hard. Like I was avoiding calls to my mom when I was first pregnant because like I love my mom. I talk to her all the time. And I was just like, I have to wait. I want to tell her in person. And I wanted to be able to say it face to face. And that was hard for me. So as soon as I told my mom, it started to feel more real. I said, Mom, you have to wait 1 week. You can't tell anyone for a week because I want my brother's wedding to be about him. My oldest brother is literally like a father figure to me. He has loved me through my entire life. He has helped me through so many different things. And he literally was the one that taught me to drive. Like, I love him. It was his wedding weekend, and he's someone that I knew he was going to be so excited, where if I told him beforehand, that was going to be all he talked about that weekend. And I wanted it to be about him because they deserve to be the center of attention, him and his partner. And the day after the wedding, I told my family, I told him, and he literally dropped to his knees and started bawling. He was so excited. And seeing my family's excitement and joy, that started to make like the little things like exhaustion and nausea, it didn't weigh down on me as much. And it started to feel more real. And I started to allow myself to get more excited. And so it was a great transition. It was a really good moment. And I was so happy. Another thing that I was mentioning earlier with the experience of the ultrasound and being able to see the baby move, that was a great experience. I didn't get to share it with Tom, which made me a little bit sad. He'll be at the next one, so I'm excited for him. But I decided I wanted to share the actual photos with him in a special way. Our 5-year anniversary was the weekend after the ultrasound. And so he had this idea for us to go on a canoe trip, like go on a canoe and have a little picnic. And it was super cute. And I was like, all right, I'm down. Let's do it. My nausea's not too bad. Let's figure it out. We're taking things a day at a time, an hour at a time. But we made it work. We got out there. And I had this idea like, okay, I'm going to give him the photos in like a really cute way there with a card for our anniversary. And so I did that. And like, I literally have, and I'll show it in a video down the road, but like he was pulling out these photos and it's like photos of us when we're younger. And then he keeps pulling them out. And then suddenly he gets the pictures of the actual sonogram. And he looks up at me. He's like, you already got it? Oh my gosh, that's crazy. I was like, yeah, like they had to, I felt immediately like guilt ran over me. I'm like, I had to, like they asked if I could and I wanted to hear the heartbeat. And he was like, no, I would have done the same thing. But he just was looking at the photos. And I mean, it looks like a little alien. Like, it's so funny when people are so excited about them. It's cool, but like, I mean, no one's looks like an individual. Every one of them looks like a little blob. I feel like you could use them for those like psychiatric blot tests because that's all it looks like to me. But it was still really cool and it was so fun to be able to share him. But the funny part about that story is when we were taking the canoe out, he had his pack on with his book bag on with the picnic stuff in it. And I had slipped the card in there with the photos too. And he's like putting it in the water. And then as soon as he starts to do that, he slips and he falls into the water up to his shoulders. And I freak out because in that bag is the photos that I was going to give him. Our only ultrasound photos are in that bag that is currently underwater. And so I'm not reaching out to help him. I'm like, give me the bag, give me the bag. He has no idea while I'm freaking out about food. Well, you know, I'm pregnant and he knows it. So at that point, he probably just thinks I needed the food and I was worried. But he handed it to me and then I told him like, hey, there was something in there for you. I didn't want to get wet. And luckily it was tucked away enough to where nothing got messed up and it was totally fine. But it was a great experience. These exciting memories that we're making right now are making me so excited. And yet it's also a roller coaster of emotions. I went through this existential crisis of like, oh my gosh, does this mean that I have to shed everything and I can't be a coach anymore? I can't do this stuff anymore. I can only be a mom. And I just have this fear of my identity changing. And so I'm trying to shift that fear to excitement and see it as a level of expansion for me and not see it as something of like, okay, well, you know, you had to accomplish everything before you became mom because now your life's over. People give you those scary stories. And my goal in this journey is to prove otherwise, that our lives are continuing to grow. You know, it's not like it's just beginning because like you had a life beforehand, but it's going to expand. And I know that and I feel that in my bones and I'm excited about it. I will be really honest though. This experience is bringing up a lot of past things for me that I have worked through for decades. I talked to you guys about how I've dealt with disordered eating. I used to struggle with body dysmorphia where I really struggled with feeling uncomfortable on my skin. And from the start, your body is already changing. I mean, I knew I was pregnant because my boobs were killing me. Literally, they were killing me for the first few weeks. And I was like, is this normal? I'm asking Google every day behind me if it's normal. And it's just so funny. But it's throwing me off. And I'm basically having to take everything that I have learned in the past and I'm having to, again, relearn it and go through it again. And typically, I think past me or middle of the road me would have been like feeling bad about that. Like, you shouldn't be having these feelings. You shouldn't be struggling with body dysmorphia. You shouldn't be struggling with how you feel in your skin. you've been through this before. Like, how dare you? And instead, I'm releasing that guilt and I'm stepping into like, okay, this is an opportunity to grow even more. This is an opportunity to remind yourself of your worth outside of your body, but also your worth within your body. The craziest thing was, y'all don't know this, but when I was going through the Feel Good Naked Challenge, so this past round of the Feel Good Naked Challenge was a 30-day challenge where I was sharing how to feel good naked. And originally, my plan was with the second round, I was going to share the previous videos that I had done last year up to my 30th birthday. And I was going to do another round of me sharing me going through it again, taking like an extra step. But I had to do it on my own. I had to do it behind the scenes. So I started to do naked yoga, even though my body was changing. My boobs were growing. My stomach is like changing. And just like, I felt uncomfortable in my skin. I felt nauseous, but I was allowing myself the space to explore this again. And so it was such an interesting timing of it all to be going through that experience behind the scenes and still going through the challenge in my own way. And I had to let go of what I was planning on doing and allowing me to do this experience in a different way. And I'm so glad that I did, because the timing of it allowed me to journal and reflect and get into the space of embracing this next chapter. It's a weird experience and my body's still growing, but it's a weird experience. I have gained weight before. I have lost weight before. I've been up and down. I've been bigger than I am now. I've been smaller than I am now. But I feel like it's the rate at which your body changes. Like, it feels like every week things are changing and you're feeling a little bit different. And it kind of freaks you out because I have this fear of not recognizing myself at the end of the day or losing my identity. I said earlier, like, it is an expansion, but that doesn't mean that expansion isn't scary. It doesn't mean that there isn't a level of me that's like trying to hold on to the past me. And for the first couple months of this, being pregnant, I was not talking to anyone and I felt very alone. I told my husband this because even though I was sharing with him, it was like, I just said, I feel alone because he can't relate to what I'm going through. And even my friends that are moms, I love them so much, but I also have my own business. So everything I would read online, I would read about what to do when you're in the first trimester. And they're kind of like, well, if you're working while you're in the first trimester, just try and go through the motions, like get the least amount of work done that you can. And being an entrepreneur, it's like, however much I show up is what shows up back with me. And at least in the current experience, I'm working towards shifting that reality. But that was so hard for me. And I had to take a step away and I had to release the pressure I was putting on myself of needing to have growth and expansion in my business when I'm having growth and expansion within my body, within my family, within my future. And I constantly was pulling oracle cards and praying and doing visualization. And it was always like this confirmation from God. The universe was like, you need to rest. You need to slow down. It's okay. And so I definitely would have, going back, listened to myself earlier on and allowed that space and released the guilt a little bit sooner. But hey, we can't go backwards. We're only going forwards. Now that I've told more people, I'm so excited to share it with all of y'all publicly. But now that I've talked to more of my friends about it, especially one of my good friends that also owns a business and has 2 kids, that has definitely helped because I'm seeing that your life doesn't end. It's such a weird concept that you hear all these stories about like, well, your life is going to end, or you should stay childless, or you're not going to have any independence or whatever. And it's like, okay, well, things are going to change, but it doesn't need to be a bad thing. It can be exciting. And so I'm getting so much more excited and I'm allowing myself space to be excited even while I'm dealing with a lot of unknowns there. Some things that are helping me. I'm taking everything from Body Confident Blueprint that I have taught my clients for a long time, that I went through and did on my own, and I'm going through it again with the aspect of this next chapter. And it's cool because I was going through my routine, and instead of me trying to have it be perfect and be like, this is what it needs to be, I'm basically meeting myself every week and seeing how am I feeling and what can I do. And now that we're in the second trimester, I have this like list of things that I'm working on and things that I'm working on doing daily, weekly, as well as within the next 3 months. And that's helping me get less stressed because I don't have to do everything at once. I don't have to know everything all at once. That's the same concept that I have my clients do. I don't have them start Body Confident Blueprint. You don't go through the BCB course and curriculum and immediately have to change your life to a complete 180. And that's the same thing with this. I'm not going to completely change everything. I'm going to slowly incorporate new things and learn and expand and shift and learn from failure and learn from other people's experiences, learn from what's best for me. And speaking of learning from others' experiences, I asked my good friends, I was like, hey, I'm doing this podcast episode and I would love for you to share your personal wisdom and things that have worked for you. And so I wanted to read that now. And it's been like, I don't know, I'm really excited to share it. So one of them said, you know your baby best. No matter what anyone says, trust your instincts overall. If you ever worry you're doing something wrong, just proves you're an amazing mom. Worry is okay because you love them. The next one, they said, most helpful was probably someone telling me that every single mom that you know of or see, even the ones crushing it or that have the best hacks and advice, they learned everything they know from other moms, from their moms, from trial and error on their own experiences. No one comes right out of the gate knowing it all or how to do everything. We all learn tips and tricks from each other. I thought that was sweet. Oh, I like this one. Nothing lasts forever. The sleepless nights, the crying, breastfeeding and teething, PPD, postpartum depression, PPA, etc. On the flip side, they grow up really fast, enjoy the snuggles, and don't listen to the lies that the baby stage is the best time because big kids are so fun too. Also, find a few people you trust. I like this. Find a few people you trust and have the same views with and go to them for advice versus going to the internet because there are so many opinions and views and it's overwhelming. Thought that was smart, like finding people that are kind of aligned with you or maybe are living a life you want to live or you're seeing the way that they're raising kids and you can agree with a lot of stuff opposed to trying to get like full source of opinions. It can be overwhelming. Oh, and I will say with this, I specifically asked the moms for this advice. They weren't just like throwing this advice at me immediately. And I think that there's something said about that too. Like I do want y'all's advice, but it can get overwhelming. So having, that I think is really special. This one was great. They said, trust your gut. End of the day, you know your baby. When you worry if you're doing what's right, 9 out of 10 times you are. Trust yourself. You were made for them. You were made for them. Hit me. That was like so cool. Like this baby is meant to be here and I'm meant to be their mom. Last one I'm going to read today. So this is someone really special to me. I wish someone told me that there isn't one right way to do things and that my intuition is enough. I was so anxious and then had my baby and I just knew what to do as soon as I had them. So trusting your intuition and always learning how to do better and be better, but ultimately you know what to do when the time comes. So this was very reassuring to hear that like your intuition is important. It doesn't mean that I'm going to know everything. It doesn't mean that I need to know everything, but I've talked to you all about getting more connected with your body, getting more connected with yourself. And I'm so grateful I went through this healing experience of reconnecting with myself and my body because I feel like I've expanded and created space for what's next. And I feel so excited about this next step. And my clients who are listening, I'm so excited to take you along this journey because I've helped so many of you, with this process. So it's really crazy to me be on the other end and going through this. And those of you who have been listening to this podcast for a while, I'm planning on continuing to talk about all things confidently uncomfortable. I'm not just going to shift into, okay, now I'm like mom. That's my only thing I'm going to talk about. Am I going to share this journey? Hell yeah, I'm going to share this journey. But that doesn't mean everything is going to be all about this. For example, our guest episode next week is all about sex and intimacy and connecting with your body. And I cannot wait for it. It's literally, it's such a good episode. It's with a really special guest. So keep listening to the next one as well. Stay tuned and subscribe. But I also want to share this part of my journey because it's a part of me. And me not sharing it with you guys over the past 12 plus weeks, it is confirmed that like I need to share all of me with you all. It feels so out of alignment. I mean, I felt so off. Y'all might have noticed this, maybe you didn't. I was not showing my face on social media. The only posts you were seeing from me were from a year ago because it felt weird to show up and like I'm so open and honest and real with what I'm going through and such a crazy life-changing thing is happening and I didn't feel able to share it. And part of me was like, am I not sharing it because there's the pressure of society of like, you shouldn't share before 12 weeks or before a certain amount of time. And the thing is, nothing is guaranteed in life. Whether it's 12 weeks or 34 weeks or whatever, nothing is guaranteed. So I have to make the decision on, what felt best for me. And going through the exhaustion and the nausea, I just got to a point where I was like, I can't even think about how I'm going to share to people or anything like that. I need to just continue to survive. And my doctor, my OB, she told me that. And it made me feel really good because there was a part of me that was like, you have to have the perfect diet. You need to eat everything perfectly. You need to do all of that. And I was struggling to eat. I was struggling to eat anything of nutrients. Like, honestly, I was eating Cheez-Its and saltine crackers and wheat thins. Like, I kind of shifted in cracker choices. I'll talk more about cravings and stuff later, but I was just trying not to get sick. And I had to eat more often. I've been eating more often still at this point than I ever have before. And it brought up this like fear because it's so weird. Someone bought me a book that was like What to Expect When You're Expecting. It's like an old school book. I don't know if it's good or not. I closed it. Like, I haven't opened it for a month. But I first opened it and like the first page I opened to is like keeping from gaining too much weight or blah, blah, blah. It was like the immediate thing as a mom was like, okay, well, you're going through this life altering change and experience, but like don't gain too much weight, or like how to get off the baby weight is already like a pressure before I'm even like postpartum. It's like already a thing. And it's just, it makes me so sick. I'm like, I've talked to my clients about this before. Like, that is such unnecessary pressure. And your body knows, like, it's okay. Like, I got through my first trimester where I was eating complete shit. I mean, I was still taking my prenatals and, celery juice and supplementing with different vegetables. Quick plug to my probiotics and green powder from Biome. It is literally life-changing and I've used it forever, but it has helped me stay regular with my digestion, go to the bathroom regularly, which apparently constipation's a real thing when you're pregnant, but not for me. And the greens really helped me like still get greens and fiber in my body because I was eating a lot more processed foods than I normally would. And it's okay. I felt like I was able to get through it. And now I feel like I have more balance. Am I completely back into this like Whole30 diet? Hell no, I'm not going to be dieting during my pregnancy, but I feel like I'm getting the nutrients that I need and listed in my body, but I'm also still allowing for other cravings or fun things that are happening without going overboard. And it feels good to find more of a balance. And I'm still figuring it out. And you guys will be a process with the stumbling and figuring it out. I want you to be there. I would love for you to be there. And I would love for you to share your stories. I want us to be involved with all this. I think it's such an exciting time. And I want you to be a part of it. So if you're open to it, I'm open to it. Let me know though, like how much stuff you want. Like if we want more like podcast episodes, maybe once a month we can do like something around pregnancy and what I'm going to do, but we can also do a Q&A, but I would love to hear your stories. I will say if you share something that is a little bit, scary or like here's like something that's going to be crazy, let me know. Just give me like a little heart beforehand if it's going to be a happy story. And if it's not as happy, maybe give me like a little like warning sign, like the little like triangle emoji, or just find a balance. Send both. Send me a good with the bad, and I'll work through it myself. I have my own boundaries, but I would love for you to share. Ask me any questions. I'm an open book. I know that there are probably questions that I haven't answered on here, and it's because I'm just full of excitement, but I also I don't know what you guys want to know. I don't know if you give a shit about the sex or any of that stuff. And when this episode airs, I won't have fully announced it on Instagram. I wanted you guys to hear it first. So if you can kind of share it, but keep it on the DL, don't go comment on all my posts and be like, oh my gosh, she's pregnant. Because I want people to listen to this because I think it's an important message. I would still love for you to message me and connect with me wherever you're at. And if you're not a mom and you're listening to this, hey, you're still valid. I think I've had some moms say some things that kind of threw me, where they're kind of like, your life doesn't start until you have a kid, or you don't know the joy of life until you're a mother, and just things like that. And I just think that's so invalidating, especially to all the women out there that are doing such amazing things in their lives and helping people and showing up for people. And so I disagree with that completely. I think that you absolutely can have a full, fulfilling life. I'm going to be real honest, going through this experience has fully solidified my values and beliefs around the freedom of choice. I could not do this if I knew that I didn't have a choice of not doing it, if you know what I mean. If you don't know what I mean, message me. If you disagree with me, that's okay. Agree to disagree. But this is not for, the lighthearted. Going through the pregnancy is not easy, and I wouldn't force it on anyone. I would not force it on anyone. So I'm so grateful that I am in a strong, healthy relationship, that I am in a healthy body, and that I'm able to make that decision right now, at least currently in North Carolina. So I'm so happy to be here. And I'm so grateful for you being on this journey with me. And I'm excited for what's next. Stay tuned with all the crazy content. Like I said, y'all, I have so many videos. I have like over 60, maybe 70 videos of me sharing my experience. So it's most likely going to just be on TikTok. I'll have some of it on Instagram as well, on my personal Instagram, not so much on the Confidently Uncomfortable. So if you're not following me on the personal Instagram, it's JagoFitLife. And then on TikTok, it's XOJago. So I will see you guys in the next episode. Like I said, it's going to be a really good one. So make sure you are subscribed. If you are new to the podcast, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. This is just the beginning. It's going to get crazy. It stays unfiltered over here. I'm pretty much an open book. You can ask me anything. And I absolutely love helping people feel confident in their skin through all chapters. This is all about unconditional self-love. And what I mean by unconditional is no matter where you're at in life, no matter what chapter you're in, no matter what size you're in, you deserve to feel confident in your skin. And I am relearning that myself in this next chapter, and I'm so excited for you to be along with it with me. Thanks, guys.